Before we commence today's sermon, let us take a few moments to observe the 8 precepts. To do this, can you all recite the Namaskar all together and with me? Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. As you all may know, today is, you can almost say, a pivotal moment in our monastery. Why? You see, humankind has gone through various so-called crises throughout history. Throughout the world's history, we've been through various crises. For example, we've had wars, world wars, cold wars. We've had famines, we've had droughts, we've had ice ages, we've had various different crises. And somehow, every time we've had a crisis, humankind has pushed through and survived. However, there has been an age-long crisis that unfortunately mankind has not overcome yet. And this has been there for over 3,000 years, since the beginning of human life. And it has been putting people under so much stress, so much suffering, doing so many things that they thought they never will, in hope to find the answer. And that is what? What is this major problem that mankind has continued to face for thousands of years? Addictions. So this is why today is a pivotal moment in you can say, in our monastery's history. Because today is the day that we are opening our Noble Friends Rehab Center. This rehab center will be taking up to 100 addicts to help them come out of it. Now, you can say, well, why? What's the point? Why should we help someone who's addicted come out of it? In the current day and age, the way we rehab these addicts, again, this could be any sort of addicts, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol. For example, I think every country spends almost around $10 billion a year. $10 billion a year. Not for just overall addictions, but for alcohol addictions itself. To treat them when they've overdosed themselves, and to do all of that, $10 billion. So I remember back in the UK, we used to learn that the NHS, so it's a free health service, would have to spend billions of dollars because people have become addicted, have become alcohol dependent, and that's just alcohol itself. Now think about all the other so-called drugs, so-called illicit drugs. We have spent so much And when they are put into these rehabs, they come out clean. But the tendency for them to relapse, for them to re-addict themselves, is so high that some people argue that rehab is useless. So, what did our monastery do? Our monastery doesn't take no for an answer. We give everything our best shot. So what do? We we tried and we've tested, and we can confirm that we have over 100 cases of people with addictions who have come out of addictions and have been clean for several years now with no relapse. So that's when we had the idea, if it can happen to 100, can't we do it for more? Because the Buddha's Dhamma is the only way out. The Buddha's Dhamma is the only way out of mental suffering. So, addictions are both physical and mental. I agree. But physically, the body doesn't say need. The body doesn't tell the mind anything but what? The body can only say, I feel pain. I feel pain. It's the mind that makes the connection that I feel pain because I don't have this. So, if that is true, if we help the mind, can't we also help the body? Because in the eyes of the Dhamma, which is worse? Addiction to, say, marijuana or addiction to chocolate? Which one's worse? In the eyes of the Dhamma, they are both same. You could say, you know what, if I'm addicted to marijuana, that's going to harm my body, right? And chocolate does no harm whatsoever, right? Chocolate can give rise to what? Diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure, and all these other things, where same as these illicit drugs. Okay, illicit drugs can give these side effects faster than these not illicit drugs, but they make the same, they have the same issue here. So in the eyes of Dhamma, whether you're addicted to chocolate, whether you're addicted to a drug, same. Because why? Addiction is what? A process of the mind. It's something that happens in the mind. So because for the last couple weeks we've been preparing for this rehab center, I had the great fortune of talking to several people, several monks, and talking to them about addictions. So I got to hear stories of people who would travel for miles looking for some sort of drug. I was told that he knew someone who was able to scale a 10-foot wall in search of what? Drugs. That you should be careful because they will lie, they'll deceive in search of what? Drugs. To fulfill their addiction. And each time they said this, the thought that came into my mind is, don't we do the same thing? In search of our pleasure, don't we do the same thing? Okay, so you'll hear stories of how someone who's addicted to something will go and will run for miles in search of that. Don't we do the same thing? You start craving for chocolate. You look around the house, chocolate's not there. Don't you get into a car and drive to the nearest store just for chocolate? You drive to the store, they run miles to get what they want. Difference? Is there a difference here? And then so someone said, they're very creative. They'll find ways to somehow. So one of them used to be an addict. So I was talking to them and they said, back then, if you were to put me anywhere in the world, give me 3 hours and I can find you what I want. Just 3 hours. So he said that one day he went to this country. Within 3 hours, he found exactly what he wanted. Because he knew that this is where I could find these sort of people and got all that. And they find creative solutions to their problems. Don't we also? To fulfill our addictions, don't we find creative solutions as well? So let me relate a story that's happened with me. So growing up, my mother realized that, her child loves watching TV, right? So-called that she thought it may be an addiction, right? Because whenever she left the house to go shopping or to drop my sister somewhere, I would sit in front of the TV and turn the TV on. And when I hear the car pull up on the driveway, the TV is off, I run upstairs and pretend to do my homework. However, my mother had a third eye. She would say, Uta, why were you watching TV? It's like, I was doing my homework. I know you. And so she thought that I was addicted. So what she used to do is, first of all, she took the remote with her. Good try. It was a good try. However, we knew better. You don't need a remote to get things to control the TV. Because see, once you're addicted, or once you find that, this is what gives you pleasure, you will try and you will stop at nothing. And then she thought, why not just take it from the source? She took the power cable from the TV, rolled it, put it into a handbag and left. Okay. And so what did I think? So now compare this to a person who's addicted to an illicit drug. Now, I'm looking. I look up behind the TV and see the shape of the power source. And then I look around the house. You could say it took me about an hour or two. Then I found the rice cooker. The rice cooker had the exact cable. Took the rice cooker out, looked at the ampere. It was, I think, 3-4 amps more than it's supposed to in the TV. Does it matter? No. Plugged it in, plugged the TV in. It worked. Again, when I heard the car in the driveway, turn off, put it back to the rice cooker, pretend I did nothing. So you tell me, a person will go and do search and do whatever it takes for them to do something that they're addicted to. And a young boy would find a way to turn on the TV. And then she realized that it took her a while to realize that I did this. It took her about a month or two. So I had a month or two without my mother knowing that I was watching TV behind her back. Then she realized. Then she took the box. So you know how you have like dialogue TV and pure TV here. So we have like Sky box and whatnot. What is it called? The TV box, we'll call it. She eventually decided, huh? No, that's where you get I think so, maybe. So she eventually decided, this is not going to work. She pulls out the decoder or the TV. Huh? We'll call it the box for now because I have no idea what it's called. She takes out the box and she puts the box in her bag. Right, it's like a pretty big thing. And she leaves with that. That was then I realized every TV has a port where you can screw in the antenna. Back then I didn't know that. And you get free channels as well. So what did? I found an antenna, fixed it, and watched TV. And I was merely, I think, 12, 13 years old. In search of what? Pleasure. The mind will go and will stop at nothing. That's one example. Now, just while talking to a lot of young people, you realize how much they're when you talk about people, adults will say, there are so many people that have a dependence on alcohol, who will have to come home and drink a cup of wine, or else that's the way they relax, and so they become dependent on alcohol, dependent on something. Children may not drink alcohol, but they are dependent on what? On that rectangular device they keep in their pocket. They are addicted. They are dependent. You take away their phone for an hour, see how they react. Coming back to myself. I think when I was 14, 15, my mother, she was smart. I have to give her that. Right? She realized that her son was going on his phone way too often. So she made a rule. The moment you step into the house, you have to pass me your phone, and then you can come inside. As a child with a dependence to a phone, do you think I would happily give the phone away? I remember I used to hide it in the folds of my trouser. So I would fold my trouser inwards and hide the phone there, and then go to my mother and say, I think I left it at school. I think I left it in my locker. See, check my pockets. Again, for what? To find pleasure, to seek for pleasure, the mind will stop at absolutely nothing. However, my mother, she knew something was up. So because we lived only 10 minutes away from our school, she said, go back to school and bring it. So I had to go out, go past some shops, and then wait several minutes, come back and say, I have it here. Same with laptops and computers and all this, because we can't say that this is people who do drugs, right? These are bad people. We think that they're gonna stop at nothing to get what they want done. What about our minds? So these are stories I'm telling you about my life. What about yours? What sort of things are you addicted to, that you find yourself dependent to? It could be a thing, it could be something you consume, it could be a person maybe. If you have a dependence, if you now depend your happiness with this thing, now you depend. You are that dependent. If it's alcohol, it's alcohol dependent. If it's a phone, phone dependent. If it's a person, person dependent. And you now cannot be happy unless what? Unless you have that. So when it comes to alcohol and these other drugs, the reason why these are highly addictive is that no matter what your mindset is, your body is constantly in what? In pain. I can prove it to you. If I told you from this moment onwards, you have to stay in the same position for the next hour, is that going to be easy? No, because every couple minutes you change. You go from sitting sideways, then sitting up, then sitting back, sitting forward. You cross your arms, cross your legs, uncross them. Every so often you have to move, or else what? You feel pain. So physically, our body is constantly in pain. That's why when we, Like sometimes when you're sat down, your arms and bodies, they become numb. And then when you lift up, you have an extreme amount of pins and needles. Now, is that because the body is finding pleasure in the position you're sat? Your body is in constant pain. That's why when someone takes, say, an illicit drug, what happens is the body pain they feel is relieved. For example, if we talked about alcohol itself, once you consume it, when it goes into your bloodstream, it goes to the places where a lot of blood is needed. So number one, the liver. Number two, the brain. The liver works very hard to get rid of the alcohol, the ethanol. So it has different enzymes. One enzyme, because ethanol itself is a poison. It's a poison. Again, it's a poison that people are drinking. So the body then takes the poison and makes it into a less, change it into a less poison form, and then change it back into a non-poisonous form. While that is happening, when the ethanol goes into the brain takes its, there's lots of synapses, you've probably heard of these. These synapses, they will send off things like dopamine. They are less, less active. That's why different people will have different effects to alcohol. Some people become very relaxed, some people become very happy, some people will have different effects according to how their brain interprets ethanol and what ethanol does into them. So endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, different neurotransmitters will do different things. But in the end, it makes the body feel good. And it in turn, when the body feels good, the mind also feels good. Because why? These two are connected. When one falls, the other falls with it. When one feels good, the other one feels good as well. That's why if sometimes when you are mentally stressed, you give physical symptoms. And that's why if you physically don't feel good, again mentally, you fall as well. So it's a vicious circle there. And therefore, they feel this sense of relaxation. This sense of relaxation becomes something they like. Because why? It's relieving them of what? This stressful, this problems and whatnot. It releases that. And then they continuously do it. Because why? One time is not enough. They have to do it a second time, a third time. Because why? They want to re-experience the pleasure they feel. They want to re-experience the pleasure they feel. But the body has something. Or the body is part of nature. Nature is always seeking what? Balance. This is why even karma vipaka works. Because why? Nature is always seeking what? Balance. So when you tip the balance one end, nature will find its way to regain this balance. So if your brain and mind finds a constant supply of, say, ethanol or opioids, what happens is the brain itself, the body itself will balance it. So if you have a high intake, or if your body is always feeling a massive amount of dopamine, right, or the feel-good hormone, what happens is the body will now start producing less of it to balance it out. However, after the effects of the drug wears off, you're left with less dopamine, less serotonin. you feel more uneasy. Because why? The body is trying to balance it, and once it's gone, your body can't change like this. It takes a while for it to change, and therefore they now feel really agitated, really anxious. Some people will start shivering. Some people will start. The first thing that happens is the craving, the initial craving, the craving for the item, and it craves and craves and craves and craves and craves. Because why? It feels all this pain. Because why? The tip is balanced. The scale is unbalanced. And therefore, by taking the drug again it rebalances. They have now taken a higher dose, or take it more frequently, more frequently, for it to feel the same amount of pleasure again. More pleasure, once you stop taking it, more pain. And this is why they go through withdrawal effects, the withdrawal symptoms. Because why? Now the body is trying to go back to normal, but when they're trying to go back to normal, now there's less endorphins, less dopamines, less serotonin, less hormones and neurotransmitters. Therefore, the body feels this massive agony. It can take from hours to weeks to even months for the body to go back to normal. This is why illicit drugs are dangerous. Because if you take chocolate, you not having chocolate doesn't do something to your body physically. Because that's only your mind craving there. But when it comes to an illicit drug, now physically is an issue. So that's why they need help to come out of that. They need help to come out of that issue. So that's why the Buddhist principles are able to do what? Help with the mental factor. It's because of this connection they have. The connection they have with drug or anything is giving me happiness. This connection is a dangerous one. This connection is what makes people think that, okay, by taking more of this, the more pleasure I shall receive. The more pleasure I will receive, I will get. So what do I need? I need more of it. That's why one will lead to two. 2 will lead to 4. 4 will lead to 8. 8, 16, 32, 64, and etc., etc., etc. Because 1 is not enough. If you were to eat 1 piece of chocolate, the first time will be okay. Second time, a bit more. Third time, a small bar of chocolate will do. Fourth, maybe a bigger one. Fifth, but luckily we have our restraints and we have our morals, and therefore we say, oh no, we're not going to have that much, even though the mind is craving, because we know eating too much chocolate is bad. But there is no relief. Just try to think about how much chocolate you've actually digested throughout your entire life. I can estimate around, give or take, a metric ton worth of chocolate. But are you so-called happy with that? Are you so-called satisfied with that? Still, when I show you chocolate, don't you think, just hearing the word chocolate, does it not give you some sort of chocolate? Or maybe not chocolate. I don't know, some people like savory stuff more than sweet. So let's say what sort of things do people like? Just try to see how many times people. I remember I was not allowed to go to the kitchen very often, because if I go into the kitchen at home, at least, that is creating chaos. But still, how many times have I gone in front of the fridge and opened it? Just opened it just to see what's inside. I think they say we waste, I can't remember the number, but it's like a massive number of electricity just because we open and close the fridge multiple times a day. I think it was like some sort of megawatts a year. So we talk about global warming and how, we were taking all this fossil fuel to supply this ever-growing world. It's all bad and it's all bad. But we're at fault here because why? We open the fridge just to see what can I eat today. Even though you're not hungry, it's just, I just feel peckish. I think there's some cake left over. No, we had some biscuits in the fridge. Or we had some this in the fridge, that in the fridge, and so you open it just to see what's inside. You may not eat, but this is what? To satisfy what? This addiction that we have. So in the eyes of the Dhamma, whether you're addicted to, say, pizza or you're addicted to cocaine, same. I remember lots of people have shoe addictions, buying new shoes, and this isn't just for one sort of people. This is for both genders. They would buy shoes that are $500, $600, $700, $800. I remember once in school, there was going to be a new release of some sort of shoe. Honestly, me and shoes, I didn't care about shoes before, but I had friends who were waiting on the wait list to buy some new shoes. And they were to release a shoe in the middle of the school day. So they would always have their phone beside them trying to buy these new shoes because why? They have shoe addictions. Addictions to new shoes. Coming back to the illicit drugs, I found out that cocaine is more expensive than gold. Cocaine is more expensive than, the gold necklace that you have, the gold bracelets, gold earrings. Cocaine itself is more expensive than gold. Why? Because it is in constant need. People who are addicted are constantly in need of it, constantly need to have it. Therefore, they'll stop at nothing, at absolutely nothing to get it. And so each time they'll take it and they'll need more, and they need more and more and more and more. I think in America alone, 25% of the entire population has said that they've taken an illicit drug at least once. That was back, I think, a couple years back now. Sri Lanka itself, the pearl of the Indian Ocean. What do you think the statistics are like here? We have seen an increase of drug substance abuse so far that it has become uncontrollable. And I think I was told at the start of this year there was an operation to reduce their number, and hundreds of thousands of people have been thrown into jails. 100,000 people have been, or millions and billions dollars worth of drugs have been uncovered and whatnot. If this is the pearl of the Indian Ocean, What do you think about the rest of the world? See, this is why addiction itself is a major issue. Addiction itself is one of the biggest issues that mankind have always faced. There are stories back in the time of the Buddha of people who have been addicted to what? Drugs and alcohol. And we're talking 600 BC, before Christ. So this is 2,500 years back. Still, they had issues. So when humankind have gone through droughts, the drug crisis was still there. When humankind has gone through wars, the drug crisis was still there. When humankind probably went through every crisis so far, the drug crisis was still there. Never once has humankind come out of it. And when it comes to addictions, has humankind ever come out of addictions? Can it come out of addictions? Not unless they understand where addiction is coming from. Not unless they understand the mechanics of addictions will they ever be able to come out of it. For example, if you know, so for example, let's say I know back then when I was little, watching TV is bad. If Amma said stop watching TV, right? If my mother told me to stop watching TV, do you think I could say, sure, yes? Those of you who have children, who've had children, who've had small humans, right? Try telling them to stop doing something they like. Is it easy? Forget small humans. What about yourselves? If I was to say, from today forth, no more chocolate, how many of you will feel this sudden surge of vexation? Sudden surge of pressure. Because why? No chocolate. See, just by saying, eating chocolate is bad, isn't enough. Just by saying, you should stop doing this, isn't enough. Because that's what we've always been told. For example, in schools, what do they say? Smoking is bad. Because why? You get lung cancer, you get liver cancers, you get bad breath, you get yellow teeth, and you get all of these things. So if you smoke, this is all bad. So people who haven't smoked will now have a view that smoking is bad. But the people who are, by telling them the bad outcomes, do you think they'll say, okay, I'll stop? They need to understand what? Why am I addicted? How am I addicted? Once they understand the mechanics, the reasoning behind it, now they can go against it. They can go against the reasons and then stop. See, addictions happen because people make the connection that this thing is what's going to give me happiness. And if I'm feeling unhappy, it's because I don't have this thing. So, let's take an example so that we can all relate to. So we'll say chocolate for now. If you don't like chocolate, use whatever example that you like. If we have an addiction, or if we are dependent on chocolate to make us happy, what we have to understand is, why is that? It's because we've made a mental connection that chocolate is what's going to give me happiness. So every time we consume chocolate and we feel a modicum of pleasure, what do we think? What gave us this pleasure? Chocolate. It was chocolate that gave me pleasure, so by having more chocolate, it's logical thinking that, right? If chocolate's what makes me happy, having more chocolate should give me more what? More happiness. So every time we consume chocolate, we say that it's chocolate that's making me happy, and therefore I feel I need more chocolate to make me feel more what? Happy. But unfortunately, there's another process in play below all this. And what's that? The pleasure that we seek isn't from the chocolate itself. Because once we say chocolate makes us happy, what are we feeling? The moment we make the connection that chocolate is what makes us happy, what do we feel? Happy? The moment the connection is made, we feel what? We now feel this great amount of pressure. Looking, seeking, finding this object. Just because you say are rich, got millions of dollars in your bank accounts, doesn't mean the moment you want chocolate you can receive it like this. In a bat of an eye, do you get chocolate in your hands? The moment you want, now you start to feel this pressure. And when you receive what you thought you wanted, now you call that what? Pleasure. It doesn't always have to, you don't always have to receive what you want. If you felt like you received what you want, you would automatically feel the pleasure. Let me give an example that's actually happened in my own life. Back when I was schooling, I had this friend who, you can say, was addicted or was a phone fanatic, right? To be more precise, he was in love with the Apple iPhones. When I mean in love, I mean he was obsessed. He walks to school. He would walk to school and he will pass what? He will always go past the Apple store. And then once he's there, he looks inside and looks at the new phone and looks at it and goes, and like this. And literally he spends a while just like drooling in front of this phone. And whenever we talked, right, somehow he would put some sort of reference about the Apple iPhone inside any conversation he has. So if we're talking about maths, somehow he say, if I had 5 iPhones, take away 4 iPhones, I have 1 iPhone left. I mean, that's how much of an obsession he had. We can say that he was constantly under so much pressure, because why? He really wanted one. That was easy for us. Why? We knew exactly what to get for him for his birthday. So one day we go up to him and we say, it's a friend, right? His birthday was coming up in another couple months. And we said, for your birthday, we might buy you the new iPhone. I just want to touch on that word might. That word might holds an entire universe of power. Because why? Is that a yes or a no? Is it yes or no? Maybe. It's neither a yes or no, it's a maybe. And so what are they feeling? They're feeling this immense amount of pressure. Because will they? Will they not? Will they? Will they not? Please, 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 please. I really want it, I really want it, I really want it. So after that, every single day, after we told him this, every single day he'll come up and ask, will you? Like, will you buy me the phone? And every single day, no matter how annoying it was, we made sure we would not give it away, and we said, maybe, we might. So just imagine what this mind is feeling. The amount of pressure the mind is feeling, day by day by day by day. Every day the mind feels that it's coming closer to the day of receiving what is going to make him happy. Every day I come closer to the day that's going to make me happy. Pressure is what? Increasing or decreasing? Increasing. The amount of mental vexation is increasing substantially. Months pass, and then finally it came to the day of his birthday. Right? Now, let me tell you this. He was horizontally blessed. He was horizontally blessed. He was, let me say, he was bigger than I was. And he wasn't so sporty. Right? He was what? He was... That was a nice way of saying this. Right. He was fat. Right. However, that day he runs to school. Like, I've never seen him run so fast. He runs to school, he comes to us and he's like, it's my birthday. Like, did you? He was, I think, like almost back then, I think in grade 9 or 10, he was like 6 foot something. It was so uncomfortable to see a 6 foot person like start to like, please, like, did you? But all of our friends, we said, we bought you a gift. However, it's school time, right? So we'll give it to you after school. Just understand how much this mind has been put under this vexation, put under this pressure. After school, 6 hours worth of what? Waiting. I remember we had like maths, English, science, chemistry, whatnot. What do you think he learned that day? What do you think he learned? Honestly, he learned one thing. How slowly the second hand moves. Because he'll be looking at his watch, saying, okay, 5 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds left. 4 hours, 48 minutes and 32 seconds left. Through our breaks and lunches and all these stuff, he was every single time. You can see that he was physically distressed. Waiting for what? Waiting for the item that he thinks that will bring him happiness, bring him pleasure. The last period. Like, I don't know about the school system in Sri Lanka, but in the UK we have a bell to signal the end of school. And there's a very famous or very infamous saying that teachers always have. The bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you. What do you think happened the moment the bell rang in this last period? Gone. Literally, it was as if he evaporated at that moment. He was gone, out of the room before the teacher even turned the other way around. Now, understand, all of this is happening because of what? All of this is happening because of what? The vexation he feels. The amount of pressure the mind feels. The mind wants to relieve this pressure because he thinks this pressure comes from what? The lack of the phone. The absence of the phone is what gives me this pressure. So he's running. Luckily, we all got together and we were all waiting for him actually in a locker room. And you tell me, as good friends, or good companions of someone, when you give them a gift, what do you do beforehand? What do you do to the gift before you give it to them? We wrap the gift. Why? Why do we wrap gifts? Because as your best friend, I want to give you more what? More pressure. As your best friend, I want to give you more suffering. So here, I wrap your gift for you. So imagine a box like this big, wrapped. We made extra sure to put extra amount of sellotape to make it that teensy bit harder for him to open it. But somehow he managed to open it, and he sees the box, and he is literally speechless. Because all of that vexation, all of that pressure he was going through, and that one moment he thought that, all of that waiting time was for this moment. All of that pressure comes down to this. And he was speechless. He was thanking everyone, and it was back then it was a core memory. And so we said, we want to preserve this moment forever. How do you do that? How do you preserve a moment forever? Taking those still images, a picture. So we said, with your new phone, let's go take some pictures. Now, I don't know if you've ever unboxed phones before, especially these really high-end phones. I remember reading an article saying that the Apple company spends millions of dollars researching the packaging, but not just the packaging, the actual opening of the package. Because if you've ever opened these high-end phones, what you'll realize is to open these phones, you can't open them instantly. You have to pull the lid off the bottom part. The harder you pull, still it doesn't open very quickly because of the air and whatnot. So literally all you can do is hold the top and just wait for it to fall. Do you see how perfectly it's been made? I think tons of research has been put to find the exact time to give the person the most amount of pleasure. So he's waiting, and waiting. And then the bottom part falls into his hands. And he sees the phone. He sees an apple. A half-eaten apple. Instead of having an apple phone in there, we had an apple fruit in there. Now you tell me, what do you think he's feeling now? What do you think this person's feeling now? All of that vexation he was put through, all of that pressure he was put through. But remember, he received the phone box. When he received the phone box, what did he feel? He felt, speechless, happy, uncontrollable happiness, right? Literally, he was so close to be rolling on the floor crying. That's how happy he was. Because of the phone box, was it? But inside the box, there was no phone in the first place. He thought that this is what's going to make me happy. He thought that this is my happiness. And therefore, when he got it, his pressure was relieved. His vexation was relieved. But then when he opened it, and he found the apple, now what? The pressure he feels, can he relieve it? Because why? He now realizes that I haven't received what I wanted. Therefore, what happens to the pressure? What happens to the pressure? It skyrockets. It skyrockets so high. Like I said, he wasn't very athletic. Most of my friends, we had the ability to run. Right? So the moment he opened it and he realized it was the apple, like we ran. And honestly, we ran for our lives because we knew, because he wasn't angry. He wasn't angry. He was, quote unquote, furious. You know, in cartoons, when they show someone's angry, they either have fire coming out of their eyes or like steam coming out of their ears. I realized why they do that. Because it looks like that. It sincerely does. So we ran for our lives because we knew if he got a hold of one of us that day, I wouldn't be here to tell you the tale. He was furious. Now, something that I knew is when someone's angry, never go talk to them, right? Just wait until they've calmed down. I did the same. I would do that to everyone except my parents because they're always angry. Right? I've always done something wrong, right? But yeah. So we gave him his distance. We made sure we kept social distancing, 2 meters, right? Not because of COVID, but because of fear of death. And once he calmed down, like, because we were actual good friends, all of our friends had got together and actually bought him the phone, and so we gave him the phone. Now again, what does he think? The phone is what brings me happiness. The phone is what brings me pleasure, and therefore relieves of this pressure, giving him this feeling of you can say euphoria, or this feeling of elation. And again, he was in tears, and again he was speechless, and again he was almost on the floor rolling, right? Tears in his eyes. But he doesn't realize that what? The happiness doesn't come from the phone. He doesn't realize. I'll tell you this as well. Like when he received the phone, he looked at the front and the back and then turned it on before giving a reaction, just in case. I mean, just to be on the safe side. But in the end, he didn't realize that his happiness isn't from the phone. He doesn't realize the happiness that he feels isn't from the phone. Instead, where does it come from? The pressure that he felt, the amount of vexation that he felt without it. And so he now becomes phone dependent. But even before he got the phone, he was phone dependent. He was addicted to the phone, even before he even touched it. Same with what? Food. Same with what? Anything. The moment you make the idea that this is what brings me this pleasure, now what? You must have it to become happy. You must have it for the pleasure. But pleasure does not come from it. Pleasure never came from the phone. Instead, the pleasure came from the release of all this pressure that this person felt. The moment the mind feels as though it received something that it wants, pressure reduces, giving rise to what? Pleasure. You see, this is what we have to understand. This is what we have to understand to get rid of this dependence to things. We have to understand, what is this thing actually giving me? What is this thing actually giving me? What is it? What am I receiving? Because when you realize what you are receiving isn't from that, now would you depend on that to give you something? For example, Let's say someone every month gives you 100,000 rupees. Every month, someone gives you 100,000 rupees. Let's say say someone gives you 100,000 rupees, and you think that because I work, this person's giving me 100,000 rupees. So I'm working for this person, right? But one day when you realize that this person is only the messenger, only the person who's giving you the money, now do you think that you're working for this person? So let me make this more clearer. So this is you. And every month, this person gives you $100,000, 100,000 rupees. And now you think that, okay, this person is what's giving me this money. This person is what's giving me this money. So everything I do, so say this is your job, right? The job that you do is so this person gives you money. So now you have to make sure this person is happy with you, right? You have to ask him, like, am I doing my work properly? Like, is there anything more I should be doing? Or what should I do to improve? And this person would say, change this, change that, change this, change that. And you'll continuously change because you think that this money is coming from this. But if you realize that actually there's someone else, the boss is who's paying you, and this person's only the person who gives you the money. Now, would you constantly depend on this person to give you money? In 14 days, this person's gonna quit his job. Before you realize this person was there, what did you feel? If he quits his job, where am I gonna get my money? Who's gonna give me the money now? But when you realize it's actually from this, the boss is giving him the money to give it to you. Now are you dependent? No, now you know, if this person was to change, if this person was to disappear, still, I'll get it. Still, you'll be able to get the money because you're no longer dependent on the person. Because you realize the person itself isn't the person who's giving you the money. Same thing with pleasure. What we have to realize is, where does pleasure really come from? Where does pleasure really come from? Because if you come to think of it, that pleasure itself isn't from the thing, isn't from the activity, isn't from taking or doing anything or saying anything. Now, you don't depend on this. Because you realize the top person on top is the one who's giving you all this. What I mean is, you start to realize that if pleasure doesn't come from this, you no longer depend on this for pleasure. Instead, you realize pleasure comes from what? The vexation and the relief. If you realize that, the only thing that this can give you is its rupa. Only its... Technically, it doesn't give you its rupa either, does it? When you realize that this is only giving you can't say that. Because what does this give you? What does this give you? This pen, what does it give you? Does it give you rupa? Does it give you an image? Yeah, look, this is the image, right? Is this giving it to you? Still, we feel that it does, doesn't it? Strange. So, this doesn't give anything to you. But Because of ignorance, we think that this is the rupa that I like. This is the mental image that because of this, the mental image is there, and therefore I'm feeling pleasure because of this. But when you realize that this gives you absolutely nothing, this is not giving you anything at all. Now, would you depend on this to make you happy? For example, if you were to realize that chocolate doesn't give you anything, chocolate doesn't give you anything. Instead, that it's so when I say it doesn't give you anything, it doesn't mean that nothing's here, right? Like you have to get this in. You have to understand that when we talk about this isn't giving you anything, that doesn't mean there's nothing here. That means that this object here isn't what is causing the object there, the object in your mind. That this is just one of the causes. But you may argue and say, well, without the pen, how am I supposed to get the mental image of a pen? Is it just the pen that's giving you the image? How many other causes must be there for this pen to, or for the pen to manifest in your mind? For example, I turn off the light. Can you now see? I don't know. Can you now see now? But I have, the pen is still here. I can see the pen, why can't you? But this is not the most important one. It's just one of them. One of the causes that makes us see this. So for example, say chocolate. Oh, they say taste it in general. Taste in general, we say, when I eat chocolate, or when I eat this food that I like, I'm feeling pleasure because of the taste. If you've ever, I remember when I was little, we used to do this science experiment where we would blot our tongue to make it dry. And then a friend will place something on our tongue to see if we can taste something. If you really think about it, once your tongue is dry, and you say, "Is your tongue? It's dry." If once you put something onto your tongue, you can't taste it just like you would taste it. So if this is chocolate, you won't taste chocolate. Instead, you'll taste something. You place it over here, you'll taste something else. You place it over here, you taste something else. But thank the heavens that we have saliva. Because why? Now this is all wet. So now when you put this here, every place is touching. And now you have the mixture of all these three things, and then you get the idea of chocolate. That this is chocolate. The taste of chocolate. So did that chocolate taste come from the chocolate? Have you ever, you probably all have, when you drink something really hot and you burn your tongue, right? You burnt your tongue and it gives you this really rough feeling. Let's say you drank some hot tea, right? And this part is burnt. Now try eating. Will you taste the same thing? Will you ever taste the same thing? Would you taste chocolate as you used to taste chocolate? No, because you realize that chocolate itself isn't from this. Chocolate is not from this or this either. Instead, it is coming of all these three things, or of all these causes that give rise to the effect. Now, when we talk about cause and effect, now this is going off topic here, but when we talk about cause and effect, don't think that when we talk about cause and effect that, these causes give rise to these effects. So, A, B, and C gives rise to D. That is not anicca. That's not cause and effect. A plus B plus C equals D. That is not cause and effect. What do you mean? It's not cause and effect. Of course it's cause and effect. These three causes give rise to this effect, right? It has to be that. Cause and effect is not this. Cause and effect can be explained like this. But cause and effect is actually, it's more talking about effect here, rather than cause and effect. So if I was to explain, do you remember when we were little, when we had to learn about maths, we used the abacus? You remember the abacus? Those beads, you put the beads to a side to learn maths. If one day I come to think, maths is abacus, is that right? That we learn from an abacus that this is numbers, this is how you add, this is how you subtract. Is abacus maths? We have a calculator. We put in calculator 3 plus 2 equals 5. Calculator is maths. Then what is maths? Maths is a concept that we can explain using this. But is maths the abacus? Is maths the calculator? Is anicca these three causes coming to give this effect? See, cause and effect is the tool that we use to understand anicca. But that itself isn't anicca. The abacus is not maths. Because if we say A plus B plus C equals D, now we have an outcome. We have a before and we have an after. But anicca can't have a before and after. Do you remember Guru Handru? What did he say? Agyatakne. So there is no where it came from. But if we say A plus B plus C equals D, then we have a before. We have an after. If you get rid of a cause, now D disappears. We have an after as well. See, it is a manifestation, or you can think of it like an arrangement. That is what anicca is. Not causes come together to give rise to an effect. Because that's why the word effect is a very good word. It's an effect. It is at that moment a manifestation. So don't get muddled up thinking that, it's cause and effect. So again, cause and effect is right. Use the word, but don't take the feeling to be causes give rise to an effect. Instead, understand that it's the arrangement here. It is the arrangement of the causes, or arrangement, or the manifestation. Right? Okay, so coming back to the tongue, right? If you realize that the taste of chocolate doesn't come from the tongue, doesn't come from the chocolate, now you no longer need, because then you fall out thinking you now no longer require chocolate anymore. Because if you understand that person B isn't what's giving you the money, right? Your supervisor isn't the one who's actually providing the money. Now you don't need the supervisor. You know, without the supervisor, boss will give you the money. Same thing here. When you realize that, chocolate itself isn't what's giving me this happiness, this pleasure, and chocolate itself is not giving me the taste either, you no longer depend on chocolate for the pleasure. So I remember one day when I was first told that, chocolate isn't what gives me pleasure, I disagreed completely, right? But because I'm a man of science, I went on a scientific expedition to check. So back when I was back in the UK at least, we have Halloween trick-or-treating, right? I was, sweet and chocolate dependent, right? I must have sweets and chocolates to be happy. So when my teachers told me that, chocolate doesn't have happiness, I went and said, no, let me prove to you that I can eat as much chocolate and as much sweet as I possibly can, and I'll still be as happy. So what I do, on October 31st, me, two sisters, went trick-or-treating, and we get bags full of chocolates, bags full of sweets. So what do? So, my parents would always say, have only just one chocolate or one sweet a day, right? Or else, you get diabetes, or else you'll get this, you get that. And I was a very obedient child, so I sat down with this massive bag and I started eating. I turned on the TV and I started eating. I can tell you, it got to a moment where, chocolate itself, when you think of chocolate, you automatically have the taste of chocolate mixed with pleasure. You have the taste of chocolate mixed with pleasure. That's why when you think of chocolate, you think, oh, chocolate, must have. Because you've intertwined these two things, taste and happiness. But that day when I thought, I'm going to have as much chocolate as I possibly can to see. I can tell you that once the sense of pleasure disappears, the taste itself will still be there. Taste will still be there, but it no longer feels the same. You're eating chocolate, but it no longer feels the same. Same taste. But with the absence of pleasure, it doesn't feel the same. And I did that until I got sick. And I mean sick, I got very sick. To the point that I couldn't stand chocolate. For 3 days. For 3 days. Then, the experiment has to be tried and tested several times, repeating, right? So we did a repeat. Again, very quickly, got sick, 3 days, come back. Tested 3 times and I realized, chocolate itself, so this is not saying you should test this out. I did the testing for you, right? I sacrificed that for you, right? So don't test it out. This doesn't mean you have to test pleasure out. You have to use your wisdom. But I can tell you that the taste itself, although you can still taste chocolate. We taste chocolate plus pleasure. We feel chocolate plus pleasure. But when you realize, pleasure itself isn't in the chocolate, you can still have chocolate. But you no longer are dependent. You're no longer chocolate dependent. I know lots of people who, don't want to listen to the Buddhist Dhamma. Why? Because if I listen, I will no longer enjoy chocolate. I have actually had someone come up to me and said, I don't want to listen to the Buddhist Dhamma, right? Because if I do, I'm going to have to stop eating. I'm not going to feel happy when I eat chocolate. I'm not going to, be able to enjoy my life like I used to. It's funny that, right? They want to enjoy life by putting themselves under pressure, relieve the pressure, and then say, chocolate made me happy. You see, humankind, the human race, has constantly been under the crisis of becoming dependent. Day by day, our dependency for things are increasing. Why? Because they're becoming easier and easier to get. They're becoming easier and easier. For example, before, when you were younger, when you wanted chocolate, what did you have to do? Say you had to say the closest shop is several meters away. You either had to walk there, run there, or take a bicycle and go there. Nowadays, everyone has a car. You can drive there, or you just have to order. You can order it online. Nowadays, you have things like Uber Eats, right? All you have to do is press buttons, press OK, and it comes to your doorstep within 10 minutes. Because why? It's becoming easier. Now it is becoming easier and easier to become dependent. Because back then, of course, you still may have loved chocolate. But because you had to put so much effort to get just one piece, you wouldn't come to become dependent. As dependent as nowadays. For example, right? Nowadays, everything you can get very quickly. Because people don't like being put under this pressure. So they find ways to come out of it. And therefore, more and more people are becoming dependent. If you were to look at the reason why people start taking these illicit drugs, why these people start having substance abuse, why do they have a substance abuse disorder? Most people come up and say it's because I'm facing these sort of problems. I have this problem, I have that problem, I have this problem, I have that problem. When I take these drugs, I no longer feel these problems. Because they've made a connection. Problems are bad. Having drugs makes me happy and forget problems. So now they have constant triggers. Why? Every time there's a problem, they have a relief. What's worse is, some people have come and are using. So this is talking about chocolate and drugs and all this stuff that actually give physical sensations, right? Physical, reduces pain. But yet there are people who, when they face problems, will physically harm themselves for pleasure, or to reduce the amount of mental pain they feel. They increase physical pain. I've had great fortunes of talking to several people like that, and all I remember seeing is on their arms, on their forearm, having several scars. Why? They want to get out of all these problems, to feel a relief of all the pressure they feel. They are using what? Physical pain to do that. See, what is mankind's biggest problem? What is mankind's biggest problem? Or what is the biggest crisis that mankind continuously faces? Vexation. Vexation, or in other words, the side effects of ignorance. That is the biggest issue, biggest crisis mankind faces. So, if someone who is addicted to something comes up to me, that's not the issue. If someone, say, has murdered hundreds of thousands, a serial killer, if they're willing, if they come up and say, I've done all this, please help me. Help me stop doing this. Because why? What are they doing? They're relieving their vexation by doing what? Killing, murdering others. I remember reading many years ago about a person who enjoyed seeing buildings burn. Is that wrong? Is it wrong that the mind is feeling so much pressure that it feels pleasure by burning buildings? So I remember he used to take a cigarette and wrap matchsticks around it, and then wrap it all in something very flammable. No, and then wrap it all in a foil or something, light the cigarette and leave it somewhere very flammable. So in a bin full of clothes or whatnot. And just walk away. After an hour or so, he looks back and he sees the building on fire. That brought him pleasure. Just like you will, turn on the TV and listen to your favorite song, this person will burn buildings. Creating harm to others, okay, that's wrong, yes. But when it comes to the mind, both minds are the same. So whether no matter what, people come together to help get rid of pollution, help get rid of poverty, and all these problems. One problem they should add to this list is what? Vexation. Or you can almost say before, or number one on the list should be what? Vexation. In other words, the side effects of ignorance. This is why we work tirelessly, day in, day out, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, to get rid of what? Vexation. To solve man's biggest crisis. And all of you have joined our ranks on your own journey to solve man's biggest crisis. So work hard and help others. There is no more to that. You should help yourself and help the others around you. That's our duty that we have to everyone. Right. We have run out of time. So again, today is a pivotal moment in the timeline of the monastery, because today is the opening of our rehab center. We've had several pivotal moments, like when we started Noble Hearts, when we started the school, when we started even the Anagarika program, the Sila Shravika, Sila Uasi's program. These are all pivotal moments. Because why? The entire monastery changes from that day forth. Who knew we'll start a school? Who knew we'll have over 500 people every day? Who knew we'll have that this time next year, we'll have over 100 high ordained monks. Who knew? Who knew? We'll have over 100 high ordained monks observing the rain retreat in one monastery. Who knew? We'll have over 150 to 175 monks by this time next year. As in, next month we have an ordination ceremony. All for what? To solve man's biggest crisis. For ourselves and everyone around us. Okay. And a reminder, I think we have a blood donation campaign today. If you are eligible, see, we help mentally and we also help physically as well. Because if you think about it, your blood that runs through you have been almost magnetized. You know, when you get a piece of metal and you constantly rub a magnet behind it, what does it become? It becomes a magnet, right? That's how you make compasses. Your blood is like a magnet, or your blood has been magnetized. Because why? Throughout your entire... Most of you spend over 12 hours, maybe 18 hours, maybe your entire day dedicated to Nibbana. Your blood is magnetized to Nibbana. So again, if you are eligible, please do. Donate, help people physically so we can help them mentally afterwards. Yeah, of course, we have that as our main goal. We help people physically so we can help them mentally afterwards. That's our hidden agenda. Helping other people without them knowing. Okay. So let's take a few moments to transfer our merits and conclude. Let's take a few moments to transfer all the merits we've acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Prayers and Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Buddhist teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's transfer the message to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasikas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down through a generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dhamma. Let's also take more and transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all chief pillars of chapters, who have dedicated their lives to no path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget among them will be the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also take more and transfer merits to Guru Sananse, as well as all the monks resident in the monastery, as well as the Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's also take more and transfer merits transfer merits and express our gratitude to those who made great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be thereby transliterating sermons, share them out with others, inviting others to join them. May the power of merits. If any of them have been born in the willful planes, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May by the power of merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble footpath, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It's also taking one chance of merits to the devotees, friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicines, as well as those who pass on their know-hows, extend their well wishes. May the power of these merits, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's take our own transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who have helped us, support us, assist us in a shape or form. By the power of the merits, may they be healed in physical and mental ailments. May they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress. May they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, primary Sakadeva, as well as numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddha Sasana. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits on garden deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May the power of the merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all that have been friends and family to us in this infinite long journey in samsara. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who helped us, support us, assist us in leadership perform. Let's take a moment to transfer these merits. Let's also take a moment to transfer these merits to the armed forces, as well as the police force, who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all this lost life in the world be the friend of foe. Rejoice in the merits of Christ today. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who have lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, lunchtime pandemics, reminding ourselves among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in this infinite long journey in samsara. May the power of the merits, even if they have been born in the woeful plains, may they redeem themselves and be born in blissful plain. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and attain supreme bliss in Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let's all resolve, may through the power and blessing of all the merits required throughout the day, we bear witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of Arhat main nuances in this blessed land. And finally, may through all the power of the merits required throughout the day, you and I and everyone who made this program a success become Arhat Nuanse or Arhat main Nuanse in this very life, in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of Noble Chopachem be with you all. Raga ginen midetva, dvesha ginen midetva, moha ginen midetva, nibbana parama sukhayin, sukita daravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin, sukita daravetva. Mamada siyalu loka, siyalu satvayo, nibbana parama sukhayin, sukita daravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin, sukita daravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin, sukita daravetva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva. Nibbana sapa labeva, nibbana sapa labeva, nibbana sapa labeva. Durunge Susyananta Mahagunabelin, Siloka Sil Satyoma, Nibbana Pamasukhin Sukadaravetva. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.